What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now today we're back at work on the K24 swap for Project CV9, and specifically we're going to be putting some emphasis on the intake manifold and the throttle body itself. But first we need to go ahead and head to the yard because we need to go ahead and pick up the correct intake manifold. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a trip out to the junkyard. Bright sunny morning here at the yard. We got a 2004 Acura TSX in white. Now, why are we looking at this car? Because we need a part off this thing for a K-swap. Now, this car just landed here in the yard 2 days ago. I checked out the inventory on the website, and sure enough, I was excited because there's another junkyard. They hoard these cars in basically the private lot. So I think they've got 8 or 9 of these things, but they don't let the public yank the parts off. So I'm not gonna pay full price for those parts, but anyways, let me show you what we're looking for here. I'll just give you guys a quick tour right here. Driver's seat's seen better days. Passenger seat's ripped up. It's relatively intact, except for the passenger side door and the glove box area. Sadly, it's automatic. And I can't tell you the mileage because it's digital cluster. And man, this car stinks. Someone definitely smoked in this thing. Wheels are not TSX. Looks like it's from a Honda Accord, painted black. Okay, and here we have it, K24. Now, I went ahead and yanked the intake manifold. So it's basically held in place on the engine block with 12mm nuts and bolts. So make sure you bring some swivels, some wrenches and whatnot, so you want to be prepared when you come to the yard. So I actually had to remove the throttle body and the air intake tube. Now I was thinking about grabbing this air intake box right here, but taking a closer look, these mounts are broken right there, and then the tube itself is cracked in half. So I went ahead and passed up on those items. Actually had to remove the fuel rail as well. So let me go ahead and show you guys this intake and what makes it special. Okay, so this intake comes in 2 pieces. Basically, this is the inner that holds the fuel rail, and this is the outer plenum right here. Now, the outer plenum is the important part, and let me show you what we're looking for. All right, so on the underside of this intake, you have this RBB stamping. This has a larger volume on the inside, which will give you more horsepower. Plus, I believe this will mount up to the Acura RSX Type S throttle body a lot better. Using an adapter plate, I believe. So I went ahead and grabbed the inside as well. Pricing is the same regardless if I grab this piece or just this piece only, but I'm not sure if this piece will mount up to the JDM K24A inside plenum. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab both pieces just to be safe than sorry. And on top of that, make sure you grab all the hardware because you just never know if you need some nuts and bolts, and actually grab the studs from the engine block as well. So I'm gonna go ahead, just reassemble this piece onto this piece. And that's all the parts we need from this Acura TSX. I'm pretty sure someone's gonna yank that motor because these K24s, I mean, they're a hot ticket right now. Rest in peace, TSX. You were phenomenal cars, and your motors will live on. Alrighty, guys, just got back from the salvage yard. Took me about an hour to get the intake manifold off the Acura TSX, and the yard did not charge me for this intake manifold cover, which I don't have. So let's go over the price breakdown of this intake manifold. All right, so for the price breakdown of this aluminum intake manifold from the Acura TSX, $42 for the part, $12 for the core, $270 for the environmental fee, and $3.40 for taxes, which gives a total of $60.10. Now, the reason why I went ahead and picked up this Acura TSX intake manifold, it was actually talking to some people on the K-Series forums, and they're not quite exactly knowledgeable about the K24A that comes from Japan because this came out of a Honda Odyssey Absolute. So some people may have thought that this intake manifold was not going to be compatible with the swap procedure. Now, the correct designation of the intake manifold that you want is the RBB, and I believe there's another intake manifold. I don't know the 3-letter abbreviation. That's for the Honda Civic Si. I think that sticks further straight out and doesn't go down like this one. Now, if you look right here, this intake manifold has RAA-8 on the top. And I thought that's actually how you identify these intake manifolds. And surely enough, that's not the case. Now right here on the top of the Acura TSX intake manifold, you can't see the 3-letter designation, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you something on the bottom side. Okay, so I went ahead and turned the intake manifold upside down, and right here on the bottom is RBB. That's on the outside plenum of the intake manifold. That's the 3-letter designation you need to pay attention to, and not this RAA on the top, which is on the inside intake manifold plenum right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and get a flashlight and show you on the underside of this intake manifold. I believe this is the right one that we have here. Okay, so trying to take a look at this intake manifold backside on the engine stand here. I got my flashlight and I'm actually shining the light right there where it says RBB. So I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me go ahead and point my finger to it. So basically right here where I'm pointing my fingers to, it says RBB. Okay, so long story short, this RBB intake manifold that came on the K24A from a Honda Odyssey Absolute is the correct intake manifold we'll be using for this swap. So basically I kind of wasted my time at the yard pulling this intake manifold off and spending 60 bucks on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and sell off this intake manifold because I know this is kind of valuable for other people doing swaps. But on the plus side, got a free intake manifold cover, which we never had. So basically not all is lost right here on this transaction. Okay, so the K24A JDM intake manifold is staying where it's at. It's not going anywhere. Okay, let's go ahead and put some focus on the throttle body itself. Okay guys, so this throttle body right here, we actually swapped this a few episodes ago for a 2003 Honda Accord, I believe it was. So this is the incorrect throttle body, so don't use a 2003 throttle body from a Honda Accord. So lesson learned, what you need to use is whatever wiring harness you use for your motor, that has to have the corresponding throttle body. So this is an EP3 wiring harness, so you either need to use an EP3 throttle body or an RSX Type S throttle body. Because we got all these connectors right here on the EP3 harness. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the Honda Accord throttle body, and we're going to swap it in with an RSX Type S throttle body. So let me show you what's going on with that. Okay, so this is the throttle body we'll be using for our swap. This is from a 2003 Acura RSX Type S. I believe I paid about $110 shipped for this throttle body. These things are hard to find, especially from an RSX Type S. And I bought this from Mercari, which is an online marketplace. Seller had some positive reviews, so I felt comfortable buying from him. So sure enough, a few days later, it arrived in the mail. Now, in order to use this throttle body on the RBB intake manifold, you're going to need an adapter plate. And this adapter plate is made specifically by a Bull Boost Performance. I know there's some other brands, but I think I got this on eBay for about $29 shipped. So it comes with an aluminum adapter plate, a new gasket, and some new hardware, which looks to be Allen head. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and remove the Honda Accord throttle body from the RBB intake manifold on the K24A. So we'll go ahead and get the 12mm ratchet out and remove this bolt right here, this nut, this bolt, and this nut. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, I successfully removed the Honda Accord throttle body from the K24A. And then here's the hardware. You got 2 nuts and 2 bolts. So we need to go ahead and remove the studs from the intake manifold in order to put that spacer on. So let's go ahead and grab these nuts right here. Let me show you what's going on. Okay, so you got these factory studs on the intake manifold. So this location right here and this location right here, we need to go ahead and extract this from intake manifold. And let me show you how to do that. So you're going to take one flange bolt and you're going to mount it upside down with the flange side upwards. Go ahead and thread that onto the shaft. Be careful not to drop it into the intake manifold. Go ahead and take your second 12mm flange bolt and put it on top of the other flange bolt that you just put on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my 12mm ratchet, stick it on top of the top nut, and then I'm going to take a 12mm wrench and tighten the bottom nut towards this top nut right here, making sure that this thing is snug. And then once this bottom nut is snug with the top nut, I'll go ahead and take my 12mm wrench and go ahead and just carefully turn this thing, and this stud should back away from this intake manifold. So let's go ahead and take care of this. Okay, successfully went ahead and extracted the 2 studs on the intake manifold of the RBB for the K24A. And here's the 2 studs with the corresponding 12mm nuts. Alright, let's go ahead and put some emphasis on this adapter plate right here. And as you can see right here, it came with 3 sets of hardware, different lengths right here. So we need to be careful of what length we choose in order to mount this plate to the intake manifold. So as you can see right here, how thin this flange is, I'm going to estimate about 1/4 inch, and then we're going to compare it to this throttle body right here. So this throttle body right here is about 1 inch, so that's a significant difference right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of the bolt ran through the throttle body, and then we're going to measure the depth of the threads on the backside and do the same procedure on this adapter plate. Okay, so if this right here is a stock OEM bolt that mounts through the throttle body into the intake manifold, I'm going to go ahead and shove this through. In the end result right here, I got about 5/8 stub out of threads. So we need to have 5/8 stub out of threads on this adapter plate right here. So let's go ahead and grab a medium bolt and see what it does. Okay, so stub out using a medium bolt. This is about 11/16. That's really close. Let's go ahead and try the short ones. Okay, and the shortest bolts is giving us a 1/2 inch. So that's about 1/8 inch too shallow. Let's go ahead and try the medium bolts, because this adapter plate didn't come with instructions. Now before we go ahead and mount the adapter plate onto the throttle body, make sure you use the new gasket that's included in the set. Okay, let's go ahead and mount the throttle body plate. Alright, here's the aluminum adapter plate all mounted successfully to the RBB intake manifold. And just go ahead and make sure you use the recessed holes for the bolts that mount directly to the intake manifold right there. Now let's go ahead and do a test fitment of the RSX Type S throttle body on this plate right here. Okay, got the RSX Type S throttle body mocked up in position on top of the adapter plate, and I see one major issue right here. So I don't know if you can see where my finger's at right here, but this bolt and this bracket is basically touching this wiring harness right here. So this right here is basically for a wire loom, so it clips right there, I guess, to hold the wires in position, and it's not allowing me to plug the wiring harness in right there. So let me show you what we have to do. And if you look closely in the hole right there, that hole is lined up perfectly for that mounting bolt, and it's basically touching this bracket right there. Okay, in order to resolve this situation, go ahead and take this 10mm bolt out of position, remove this bracket, and that'll expose the raw piece that we need to deal with. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my angle grinder and use a cutoff wheel, and we're basically going to make a slice just like so. So basically we're going to be cutting a portion off this intake manifold, which actually has threads to hold this bracket in position, so we're not going to be using this anymore. And then once I go ahead and make that cut, I'll go ahead and clean up as best I can with the grinder, and then hopefully it's a nice clean cut, and then it won't interfere with the wiring harness. Okay, so let's go ahead and take care of this fabrication right here. Okay, modifications to intake manifold, successful. Using the cutoff wheel and the grinder, and also touch things up is my file right here. So basically this is the ear that would cut off from the intake manifold right here. And that's due in part because the RSX Type S throttle body was interfering with this ear with the wiring harness. So now we don't have any clearance issues, hopefully. So I did the best I could to make this an OEM cut right here. Basically just followed the line on the back side, went straight across, followed the curvature right here on this radius. Now I know there's some exposed fresh aluminum right there, but over time it'll actually get old and dirty to mimic this one right here. And then before you start cutting and grinding, just make sure you tape off all the ports, because you don't want any metal shavings getting on the inside of your intake manifold right here. Okay, so the last step to do is to go ahead and get the RSX Type S throttle body, put it in position, and see if there's any interference issues. And a 2003 RSX Type S throttle body, mocked up in position. Let's go ahead and hold it up to the plate. And sure enough, right there where the wiring harness connector goes, we have no interference. So we were successful in making the modifications to this RBB intake manifold. Alrighty guys, unfortunately we're all out of time on today's episode, but I must say we made some major strides on the work performed on the K24A, which will be eventually going into Project CB9. Now regarding the outer plenum of the RBB intake manifold, we had to make some modifications for the RSX Type S throttle body that will be going on. And I'm also waiting for a part before we go ahead and actually mount the throttle body itself. Now before we go ahead and mount the outer plenum onto the motor, we also need to address the charge harness itself and the starter. So we're going to save that for next episode. Anyhow, if you got any specific questions so far on this K24A swap for Project CB9, please feel free to comment below and I'll do my best to answer all questions. And if you found this video helpful or entertaining, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.